Are you going to sign this, or will it be your surviving family members?
Okay, I guess that sounds pretty good.
You want to take us to war? You want to end the war? You want to keep the war on drugs going? You want to keep reinstituting the Patriot Act? Let the people vote. That, to me, is the only solution.
Well, there's no doubt that our republic is broken.
I highly recommend people take a look at the Initiative and Referendum Institute of Europe and see the data that they've compiled. It's fantastic. They really have a global map, a navigator to direct democracy, and you can find out if your country has direct democracy rights and how strong they are. Not all are equal. You can see on the navigator map, you can scroll around the world and just click on the blue buttons and find out what's going on. Check this out. Costa Rica. They have Popular Citizens Initiative. We can get some more data on this. We go to the National Popular Citizens Initiative page, find out that they have a right to have a constitutional amendment that's legally binding, that can be authored by the citizens, initiated by the citizens, and the whole electorate can vote on it. They need 5% of the voters to sign the petitions in a 9-month time period. How fantastic is that? True direct democracy. They can stop all corruption in government. They just need to use it. And other countries, have these rights. Not all are equal. Like in Japan, for example, the government can propose a referendum for the citizens. They can vote on it, and the citizens can make the final decision, but they cannot just put it on the ballot. More and more countries are joining, and more countries want direct democracy. The people who are afraid of direct democracy are the global elite. They don't want the people to be able to choose their own future.
The country of Iceland recently rejected loans from the IMF using a public referendum, declaring sovereignty from the international banking system, just like the farmers in North Dakota did when they put an initiative on the ballot for the non-profit state bank system.
Why direct democracy? Direct democracy is today really an important feature of a modern democracy because it gives citizens the right to put an issue on the agenda of everybody and to also be involved in decision making. And this is a critical element of balance towards poor indirect democracy, because indirect democracy is based on representatives who are elected and who are accountable, but of course their ways of discussing, of deliberating issues is limited to the elected body, to the legislator. With direct democracy you can bring out important issues to everybody and to have decisions by referendum on these issues. Now, direct democracy as such is not an alternative to indirect democracy, and it's not an alternative to human rights. It's, I would say, a third important pillar of a modern representative democracy. So it needs to be embedded into a system where human rights are not just the subject of simple majority decisions, but have to be really developed through different kinds of decision making. And also, I would say, direct democracy needs to be embedded in a way that, for instance, when there is a citizen initiative, that the legislator, that the parliament or the government can make counter proposals, and in the end you can make a well-informed discussion. So it's about collaboration, it's about conversation, it's about dialogue, and much less about just monopoly of power and ordering decisions. In a series of countries across the world, you have such citizen-friendly ways of using direct democracy, including countries like, for instance, Costa Rica, a little bit at some point also in Uruguay, and of course also in Switzerland. But direct democracy is a never-ending story, as democracy is a never-ending story. So we have to develop it all the time, more and more. Thank you very much.
Certainly, direct democracy is about ultimately getting the people to act as one voice in some manner. And the best way to do that is through the internet, whether we have to filter it through current systems or not. Right now, QED that you know about that I'm working on has as a part of its strategic aspect the idea of, working within the current system. And so, knowing that our only access is really to Congress and the presidency, the court being a function of the presidency, essentially. The question is how to participate in our own government. Because right now, as Michael Warnken would tell you, it's something like 400,000 to 1. It's some crazy number of representation that we have right now in Congress. It's just it's insanity. So how could that possibly be representation? That's absurdity. So the idea is to filter our voice through, in my mind, those positions, because they're givens within our system at the moment, in a way that accurately reflects those 400,000 as best as possible. And so, that's a practical approach to direct democracy, I guess you would say, within the American system. Otherwise, having online debating forums that are streamlined to lead to opinions, to actual polls, votes, where we end the discussion with an understanding of how we feel as a distributed collective about a particular issue in an accurate, trustable way that's not molded for us by the mainstream media, et cetera. It's a useful tool for us to get together on any issue, whether it's local, national, or whatever, or just for our own natural use. It's a flexible tool potentially if you can streamline some software tool to aid in that process. And I think Facebook has done not the worst job of it. I mean, those of us who know how to use it well and who group up naturally with people we like to have discussions with and who find the rules acceptable, in some sense about how we discuss, we get a lot of work done. And so it's not the answer, but it's certainly another indicator. It's another proof. And then on the other side of this, obviously, I'm sorry to talk, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I'm just rambling on this. The other issue is inclusion. And one thing I can certainly attest to is that there are very few of us who actually have the time, want to take the time, are willing, are able, have done the work to actually debate at detailed level these issues and then present some set of, reasonable opinions for other people who don't have the time to do that kind of work to make a judgment. And so the whole idea of having a slate of opinions that you can then choose for yourself as a voter and say, well, this one sounds like my instinct about this. I'd like to know a little further maybe than this one-sentence description. So let me see the paragraph description. Okay, I even want a little more. Why don't you give me the one-page description? No, now I want to see the whole debate. So having that staged level of information for someone who wants to make their judgment available is clearly an advantage for the voters. And anybody who's watched an idiot show like American Idol, where, everybody's voting, 25 million people vote, on who's going to win. I don't remember that. I haven't watched, looked at it for many years, but obviously the American people like to vote. That's not the issue.
More people vote on American Idol than they do for president, I heard.
Right. Okay. So they like to do it. Would be glad to do it on a daily basis. I'm sure they love to. They do it on Facebook, little polls. Sure. So getting them included is the point. Having a way to translate it for them, that democracy, for them is a very important part of the challenge for those who are maybe a little bit more focused on the details than they have to be because they're focused elsewhere. You can also have people debating the actual architecture itself on an ongoing basis. Totally. And so improvements on a natural constant basis, as it goes. But definitely, the tool itself as a debating, resolving, and that analytical tool can be applied at any level for any purpose and especially QED, which for those who are listening might not know, stands for Quorum E-Democracy. Where the idea is this, nested tree of debate groups, basically, that then filter back up their decision debates to the voting level. So somebody puts a proposal, people start to dive, and they start to find their commonalities and diversities and break off and debate and resolve and compromise, and each level kind of rising up with their own little slate to join other slates and coming up to the top and, compromising as they go and merging as they go, and then disappearing except as data for history. It's not, you don't permanently stay in that node. You're just there debating the issue, and then it goes away. That makes it different from like a Facebook group. It's like a post. It's like a post buried in a thread.
So you've already done a lot of thought on this and how different structures could be made to.
Oh God, yeah, and security too.
Runoff voting system as well. Yeah. That's
essential. I have to give credit to Bram Kiewit for introducing me to that. Instant runoff voting with none of the above, which is what I like to add, is an essential way to show what the group believes and to divide their opinion accurately, meaning there's no, people confuse democracy with majority rule. They have nothing to do with each other. Majority rule is a completely, bizarre idea comparatively in some ways, but it's the way it's been done, and it's a dangerous way as we see. But IRV says no. So many think this, somebody think this, somebody think this, somebody think this. That can come down to actual government if you say, well, we seem to want to have some common goals. This guy's got this idea, I'm willing to put some money into that. This guy's got this idea, I'm willing to put some money into that. And then you vote with your dollars, and then you see how it breaks out. And then, the country has decided as a group, well, we're funding this much, this idea this much, this idea this much. So you don't need to be black and white. It can, you can distribute opinion and get what you want. And then you can change it later if you don't like the results. So the idea is to let the best people who know the most about a subject voice in naturally as they come up, and let everyone else benefit from their expertise in a naturally debated way, and to whatever level of detail they want to know, based on the record of the debate that led to that slate, and make decisions, whether it's for your local school board or whether it's for national defense. It doesn't matter. It's it's a tool. And you can look at government.
Yeah. Well,
go ahead. No.
What kind of resources or time do you feel it would take to develop this?
Nothing. This is basically a very simple, especially if you throw out all the garbage, that comes with something like a Facebook. This is a very simple branching tree, quorum, text debating thing. I mean, attaching files and all those bells, and these are all things. I mean, I used to design supercomputers, so believe me, for me, this is nothing. This is like you get a couple of hotshots programmers together. In 6 months, you've got whiz-bang QED.
Either you create the greatness of what this country and world could be, or somebody else is going to create it for you.
This is directdemocracynow.org, a website dedicated to sharing with you the trends research from trends forecaster Gerald Celente about how direct democracy is a solution the people can use to stop corruption in government. All you have to do is go to the website, learn some more about direct democracy, and then fill out the volunteer form on the page. When Gerald gets in contact with enough people around the world who want to see direct democracy work, he will put together an action plan for us to participate in empowering our democratic rights, ensuring that we can either initiate direct democracy in countries that do not currently have it, or that we can utilize direct democracy to its full potential in the countries that do have it. Join directdemocracy.org now.
In conclusion, we have the technology to develop consensus among people who want to debate the most important issues that affect our society. Furthermore, a small group of patriots can bring their consensus to the ballot to let the voters decide.